Hello and welcome to this episode of SPSS one-on-one series with the Order Analytics. Today we look at Poisson and negative binomial regression models. We look at the difference between these two models, the different subtypes of these models, and how do we choose the most appropriate type of model for our analysis. So first things first, both Poisson and negative binomial regression models are types of generalized linear models that we use to model count data. Count data where the outcome variable is a non-negative value. It has values of 0 onwards, so we don't have a negative value. And the main difference between these two models lies in how they handle overdispersion. Overdispersion occurs when the variance of the data is greater than the mean. When we talk about overdispersion, this is the main assumption that we check in before using Poisson regression. The assumption is the mean should be equal to the variance in your data set if you are to use Poisson regression. But in scenarios where you do not have equal mean and equal variance, then you opt for negative binomial regression. These two models are similar. Let's have a look at their formulas. When you look at the formula for Poisson and the formula for negative binomial, they are similar. Both of them, it is the log of the count outcome that forms a linear relationship with the predictor variables. However, the negative binomial regression model have an additional parameter called the overdispersion parameter, which is, it makes it flexible to correct for overdispersion in your data. We need to also note that if this parameter here is 0, then the model, the negative binomial regression model, is the same as the Poisson regression model. In other words, it is telling you that if you do not have overdispersion, use Poisson regression model, because this formula will still be like the Poisson regression model. That is an important assumption when you're choosing between Poisson and negative binomial regression models. Additionally, we also have another type of question that we ask when choosing between Poisson and negative binomial. Is there a zero problem in your data? When we talk about a zero problem, let's take an example. You're collecting data on the number of hospital visits that were made by individuals in the previous 1 year, and you have a sample size of 1,000. But you notice that in your data, very many people have zeros than you would have expected, and because of possibly two reasons. Okay, maybe these people didn't go to the doctor or to the facility because maybe they don't have an insurance card, or cultural issues, they don't go to the hospital. Those one would be called structural zeros. Or it could be as a result of sampling zeros. Yes, you went to these people. They often go to the health facility, but in that last 1 year, they did not go. So they have 0, but because of the period. So if you have more zeros than expected, we call that zero inflation. And so you would choose to use the zero inflated Poisson. If you have less zeros than you would expect, then that is a zero truncated model. So we would use the zero truncated Poisson. Same thing applies to if you have negative binomial. If there is a zero problem, then that is zero inflation. If not, it is zero truncated. Now, the issue comes, how do I choose the most appropriate model to use in my analysis? Most of the time, depending on the software you're using, you may need to fit all these models, and then you run the model fit statistics for each of these models. You compare the one with the best statistics, that becomes the most appropriate. But besides these models, I want to draw your attention to another type of Poisson regression, commonly referred to as the modified Poisson regression. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but I want you to know that it exists, and in our future episodes, we are going to look at it. So in our next episodes, we are going to look at these models practically in SPSS, how to test for assumptions of each, how to build the models, interpret the outputs, and then how do we report our results for our research. So don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out any of our episodes. In case you have any concern or question, put it in the comment section. I will be glad to help. See you in the next episode.